and welcome along. My name's Eva. I'm a knitter, a stitcher, a maker and merchant, and I'm making a video in the southwest of England where I live just to talk about what I have been knitting and crocheting for June and July 2025. So welcome along. Sorry I missed out June's end of month roundup, but it just got a bit busy, so I've got quite a few weeks worth of stuff to show you, so I'm just going to stick to what I have been knitting and crocheting, and I've got a little bit of shop news at the end because I've been making badges, so I've got a short little film about badge making at the end and the usual snippets of the month. So let's get stuck in straight away with the knitting, and I've got a couple of finished things to show you. Now I've got a whole big shawl, but don't be fooled, I did not whip this up since I last saw you. This was a really long-term work in progress that I just abandoned. I cast this on, I would guess 2018, when I was a fairly new knitter. It's the Free Your Fade shawl by Andrea Mowry, and it's a fingering weight shawl. It calls for 300 grams, 3 different colours, but I did not use 300 grams. I've got about 140 grams left over from this, and I had knit this, I'd knit this, and I just striped in the 3rd colour, and then I'd abandoned it for so long, and I actually got it out thinking that I was going to frog it because I wasn't knitting on it. But when I got it out, I thought I really liked it actually, and I only had, like, you know, I think it was 60 rows I counted on the pattern to finish. So the yarn that I'm using is, again, super old. It's the first ever hand-dyed yarn that I bought, I think. So this one was rose gold from a homespun house, and I remember buying it because they were about to move to America, and I thought I'll never get a chance to get any again, and they've since gone there, lived there, and come back to Germany. And then this one I dyed because I thought it tied the 2 yarns together, so it's a nice raspberry kind of colour. And the 3rd one is from Jude at Stranded Dye Works, who is no longer dyeing yarn, and this one was called Nougat. So yeah, it's a 3 colour, and you fade in each one. I think it did call for like double yarn overs to make big holes, but back when I was a new knitter I thought that sounded really scary, so I just did normal yarn overs. And I did skip out, I wanted to get this done, so I think I skipped out 1 repeat maybe, and so the peach section is a little bit shorter than it should be, and then it's got this lovely picot bind off. So this is all sock yarn, so 75 superwash merino, 25 nylon, and I think it's turned out a good size. It's not too big, but it's big enough, so I think this will be handy when the autumn time comes and you want something cozy but not too bulky. So I'm really pleased to have got that off the needles, and I'm not sure right now where my leftovers are, but I think it's going to be enough to make another one of these, which is the Nausicaa Tea by Audrey Borrego. It's a free pattern, and if I remember rightly, this took me about 130 grams, so I'm thinking I could knit one in the same way using the fading pattern. I think I've got most of the peach left, so if I started with the peach and then faded in the red and finished off at the bottom with the brown, I think I could get a nice little knitted tea out of it, so that would be cool. And then the other finished project that I've got is something that I think I did show you back in May when I was last on here, and that is the mini mock neck tank by Jessie Made Designs. And I was worried because my armholes were turning out a bit gapey. I knit, I can't remember which size it is, but it ends up as a 35.5 inch bust, but it's meant to have lots of negative ease. I stuck to that even though I'm using sport weight yarn rather than fingering weight as the pattern's called for, and I knit with the called for needles because I wanted it to have sort of neutral ease, not negative, not any positive, just about 0. And I don't know if I've done the pattern justice really, because it just hasn't knit up. I should have just stuck to the designer's vision, but it does fit okay. And I did rescue the armholes by doing single crochet all the way around, and I just picked up 3 out of every 4 stitches, and that did the trick. So it's okay and it fits all right, but as you can see the neckline is quite loose. It looks all right on, but I haven't washed or blocked this, and I'm worried that because it's I think it's a cotton and bamboo yarn. It's by Millamia and it's called Baby Soft, I think. This is Teddy Brown and this is Ballerina Pink. So I'm just a bit worried that when I wash this it's going to get really big. But I do have some of the Teddy Brown left, and the neckline is added on afterwards, so I could maybe, if it goes really baggy, take this off and do it maybe in smaller needle or pick up less stitches and just do it all in brown, and maybe even redo the ribbing at the bottom, because I didn't really think through what I was actually going to wear this with. And it might be a bit easier to match with things if it was actually all one colour, so I wouldn't be mad if I did have to try a bit of a rescue mission on it. But if it does stay okay like this, I will keep it. But yeah, I don't feel I did the pattern justice, so I think if I were to knit it again, I would stick to the recommended fingering weight yarn and the recommended size and everything, because it's a lovely pattern. And then the next thing is crochet, and I think I've started this since I last saw you. I had an advent yarn calendar last year from Indie Yarn Club, and it's lovely neons and it's a beautiful fade, and I decided to cast on a linen stitch crochet blanket, and I used a great tutorial from Emma C Makes here on YouTube. And it was great to get started. It's not the corner to corner one, it's just rows of linen stitch. I used a 3mm hook, and it's been really addictive to work on. So of the 24 20-gram minis I got throughout December, I think I'm about to move on to number 20 now, so I'm nearly finished, and here it is. What I decided to do was, I did have to tinker with this and go back and do it again, but ultimately I chained 280 stitches, and that's given me, I would say, a single width blanket. It's not that wide, it's 90 centimetres wide, and I'm nearly finished, and by my calculations this is only going to be about 72 deep, because it's a really dense fabric. It's not wholly like crochet usually is, and I really like it. It's nice and drapey, and it will be very like cozy and a nice weighty blanket, but that's a bit weird proportions, that it's not as tall as it is wide at the moment. So I could do nothing else but sign up for this year's Indie Yarn Club Advent Calendar, because I think if I knit in another quantity of the same, then it will be a nice size. It should work out about 90 wide and 140 centimetres or so tall. So I think that that will be a good sized smallish blanket. And after I signed up for the Advent, I got an email with the mood board, and it's a similar kind of vibe, but with blues and purples also in it this year, so still neons and that kind of thing, and I think that that will go really nicely, and it still might look like two distinct halves, but I think that they'll be very similar so that it will look really cool. So I'm very happy with the way it's going. The last few yarns kind of return towards the pinky purples. So it's really fun to knit them in because all of the colours are lovely. That's the one that I'm on. Sorry, the light is so weird today. That's the one that I'm on at the moment, which is, it looks a bit like a fruit salad sweet. It's pink with peachy stripes in. And yeah, it is really addictive to work on. My knitting and crochet has been a bit on and off when the weather's too hot. I don't really like working with the wool, but where I can, I try to do a little bit of this most days. And that yarn is fingering weight 100% merino. Another thing that I've done this month is crochet a lampshade for a lamp base that I had spray painted red, and then my daughter said, oh, if you paint yellow pips on that it will look like a strawberry. So then I did that and it looked cool, and I wanted to crochet a green lampshade to just kind of look a little bit like the strawberry leaves at the top of the strawberry. So I got some Yarn Smith's Create. It's DK and it's 100% acrylic, and this colourway I think was called Clover. Yeah, it is, it's written on it. So that shade 3215 Clover. I did buy 200 grams, but as you can see I've got one untouched and a little bit left of the other one, so I only needed 100 grams. And I'll put some footage in here of the lamp. What I used to create that was I did 4 willow squares, which I've always wanted to try, and I just found a tutorial here on YouTube. There's quite a few of them, and I ended up needing to do 4 of those, but I needed to do I think 3 extra rounds of single crochet just to make it almost the right size. Then I single crocheted them together so that they formed like a tube, and then I needed to do another couple of rounds of single crochet on the top and on the bottom, which I think was a good thing because it sort of neatened it up, and then it was tight enough that I could just slide it on over my existing lampshade and it stays in place. So I'm really happy with how that turned out, and I'm glad to have tried the willow square. And then after I'd done those few bits and bobs, I felt it was time to have some new cast on, so that's what I'm going to show you now. So first things first, I got myself a skein of hand-dyed yarn for my birthday back in June, and this is by Wildflower Yarns and it was called Lunar Moth. And it's really pretty. It's like, the light is so bad, it's literally pitch black in here right now, and it's like, I don't know, midday. It's like palest purple with these little flecks of bright luminous green in, and again 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and I'm just knitting a pair of vanilla socks with these, but I think I'm going to knit them quite long so that they can be slouchy socks. And I've put in some waste yarn because I tend to do that and then go back and put in like a wedge heel. That seems to fit me quite nicely, and I'm knitting them at the same time, each on a 9-inch circular 2.25mm, and I usually cast on 64 stitches. So yeah, I'm sort of on the legs now. I did pause because I was deciding whether I should put any kind of texture on the legs or do them in ribbing. I think I've done 5 rounds after the where the heel's going to go, so I could still maybe do, I either thought I could do 2x2 ribbing for the whole thing, or I could just do it vanilla, or I could do maybe like every 10th round do a purl row or something. So yeah, I have paused those for a few days because I'm being a bit indecisive about how to proceed with those, but it's lovely delicate yarn, and it's nice to have like a project that you can just take out and about in case you get stuck waiting somewhere or something like that. So I'm working on those intermittently, and then I also cast on something else with some indie yarn club. What I did was I bought into the monthly colour club. I think it's called the Blanket Club, the one that I went for, so that I wouldn't buy the advent calendar, because I would think to myself, oh no, you're already getting that club, so don't do it, because the club, you don't have to commit to it, you could stop at any point. But now I've got the club and I've committed to the advent calendar. But I was so happy with the first club that I got, because it's kind of my favourite colour ever. It's this wonderful hot pink, and I have cast on a Lento sweater, which is a pattern by Jonna Helen. I hope I'm saying that correct, if my memory serves me right. But I love the Lento. This is like maybe my fifth one, and what I'm going to do is I've knit most of this 100 grams of fingering weight yarn away. I'm holding it double because the Lento is a DK pattern. I think what's actually recommended is like a fingering weight held with a mohair, but I'm just holding, sorry, I'm in a tangle, I'm just holding two, like I split it into two 50-gram balls, and I'm holding it together, so I've got a little bit left, and then I'm going to wait to see what the next month's instalment is, and if it's something that flows quite nicely from this, I'm just going to colour block it, and if it's something that needs marrying up a bit, I shall do another fade like I will with the Nausicaa and I did with that shawl, just to kind of blend them together a little bit more. So I'm just holding that back so that I can assess what needs to be done when the next one arrives. But I hope it's a super fabulous colour like this. I know it will be, because that's what Indie Yarn Club does, and I think I will need 300 grams to make a Lento, so I'll have to get the club at least another couple of times, and then I should really cancel it then. But if it's super fabulous, maybe I'd have to get another month just to see. All the colours are just so delicious, so that's my favourite thing that I'm working on right now. That's really so much fun. But again, I do have to wait for the next one to see how I'm going to proceed. My last couple of projects are actually for my daughter. I have cast her on a cardigan number 7 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. You might remember, if you've been here before, that I knit a stripy one of these for myself out of Lang Yarn's Cloud. I think that's a chunky yarn, but Cloud is like a blown yarn and it's really lightweight, and my daughter was borrowing my cardigan when she was chilly, and she said she really liked everything about the shape and the fit and everything, and could I knit her one. So we went onto Wool Warehouse and had a good look at different yarns, and we ended up with West Yorkshire Spinners Retreat Chunky. I hope this is okay to knit with because it's roving, so I know that means it would felt readily, so this cardigan can't go anywhere near the washing machine, I don't think. And I don't actually have a lot to show you yet. I bought 300 grams because that's all it takes to knit this cardigan, and basically I've just got a strip of the red to show you. I'm using the recommended needles. I'm knitting the same size as I did last time, even though the one that I knit did turn out a little bit big. It's recommended on 7mm needles, and a lot of people go down to 6.5, which I hadn't read on Ravelry before I cast mine on. And I rescued mine by picking up far less stitches for the button band and the neck band, which you do at the end, and that meant that it kind of had a bit of a balloony style, but it was cinched in where it counted so that it wasn't too sort of big at the neck and shoulders. So we're going to do exactly the same thing with this one and hope that it turns out the same. Obviously this isn't like the blown yarn, so they might have slightly different gauges and properties, but we'll see. I'm just kind of winging it. But this is a lovely scarlet red, and it's shade 1017. It's called Recharge. And it was so funny because after we'd gone all around the houses looking at all of the chunky yarns, I put this in my basket. I logged into my Wool Warehouse account to check out, and I had exactly the same thing in my basket, 300 grams of this shade. And then I remembered that I'd been through this whole thing for myself and concluded that this is what I would knit my next cardigan number 7 in. But I didn't buy a quantity for myself. I bought some blue Drops Air to knit mine, so because I thought I wouldn't want to knit the same thing twice. But yeah, this is a nice, fun, easy knit. So again, when it's not too hot, working away a little bit on that. Final thing that I'm working on, because I think that's kind of enough for now, is something else for my daughter, which is something she's been asking me for ages, which is a pair of leg warmers. And I'm knitting that from a Wool Warehouse, their own sock yarn. I can't remember what it's called, Yarn Smith's Merino sock, I think, shade 2K098. I've done it into two 50-gram balls so that I can make sure that I have enough for each thing, but I forgot to wind the other one into 50-gram balls, so I'll have to kind of weigh what's left and hope that it was close to 100 grams. This is Cascade Heritage in, I think, the silver colourway, or the palest grey that they have anyway. And I'm just sort of guessing with this. I'm knitting on 2.75 9-inch circulars simply because that's what I had. I was hoping for 2.5, but I didn't have any circulars, and I stuck to casting on 64 stitches as if it was a sock, thinking that the bigger needles would make it wide enough at the calf. And I've done quite a long 2x2 rib. I did 30 rounds so that if it's stretching out at the calf, it won't go too thin and sort of disappear. So I hope that's big enough. And then I'm doing 10 rounds of each yarn for the stripes, and I'm just cutting that, and I'll just have a lot of ends at the end. And yeah, we'll just see how we go. I think my daughter actually wants these to get wider towards the bottom so they'd sort of sit over a shoe and keep her legs warm. I think she wants to wear them with her Doc Martin shoes, so these would kind of keep her legs a little bit warm in the winter. So again, that's just something to chip away at, although we're just heading into August and it will be autumn before we know it, so chip away quite quickly, I guess. But yeah, that's quite enjoyable actually, because you've always got that thing of getting to the end of a stripe and then you think, well, I'll just start the next stripe, and then before you know it, you're getting to the end of that stripe. So I love stripes for that reason. They seem to like give you some extra momentum, don't they, when you're knitting. So I hope that wasn't too whistle stop. I think I've covered everything, and I have done bits and bobs of other things, but they're probably just a bit too incidental to include. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you a little short film about my badges that I've been making. I'll sort of save all my shop stuff to the end so that you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. But my youngest and I bought a badge maker together. My daughter has a badge maker herself, but she has that at her house, so we got one so that we could do it, and I have so fallen in love with the process. I've been doing collage and making like collage badges, just quite sort of whimsical ones really. I think they're going to be a bit difficult to show, but basically I've been getting floral images from like gardening catalogues, and then cute little creatures from magazines, and then I've been using a typewriter to put little slogans on them. So it is too hard to show here, so I will just let the film show you. It's a couple of minutes long, so I'll play it now. So they are going to be in my shop, cocoandflora.com. They're £4 each, but that does include shipping. So and what I've done, with apologies to overseas customers, although I don't have any overseas customers because I'm too small of a business to comply with regulations that allow me to sell in Europe or Northern Ireland now, and it's too expensive to ship to the US, so huge apologies, but there isn't anybody, like, I'm not getting overseas orders, so I decided that so I could include free shipping or included shipping without complication, I'm just limiting it to domestic shipping. So hopefully people will like these badges because I really want to make some more. I am going to make some maker themed ones, like knitting and crochet themed ones, because I thought they'd be really cool to put on notions pouches and project bags. So yeah, that's that. I'll put in some rare footage of June and July. Thank you so much for stopping by for a catch up. I hope you're enjoying what you're making, and I hope to catch up with you again really soon. Bye for now.